Palms are sweaty, sick to my stomach, feeling nervous and anxious for what lies ahead. These are all the things and more I felt leading up to pitching my product to the investors on Dragon's Den 2 years ago. 3 years before that, I was sitting with my cap and gown where you are now, with the same excited feelings about the new path ahead of me and full of opportunity. President Chris Whitaker, Dean Denise Devonlee, members of the faculty, proud parents, and above all, graduates, thank you for giving me this honor to celebrate your incredible achievement today. As I mentioned, I sat in your seat a very short 5 years ago, wondering what the world had in store for me and the rest of my life. Life is a constant evolution, and I'm still wondering the same thing every single day. For instance, I could have never imagined sitting in your seat back then that I would be up here fighting my nerves to share my story with you today. My hope is that my story will inspire you to follow your dreams and persevere, even when the going gets tough. My story starts back when I was enrolled at industrial design here at Humber College. I was commuting back and forth an hour each way every single day. Eventually, I began packing my clothes in a duffel bag so I could stay at a friend's house or at my girlfriend's to save myself the trip and some gas money. This was great, except that the second day, it was a complete disaster. I would sift through the duffel bag, looking for the right clothes to wear for the day, and in the process, I would undo all the folding that I had done the previous day. When I left and it was time for bed, I would stuff everything that I had worn that day, and I'd stuff it back into the duffel bag, essentially mixing all my clean and dirty stuff together, so I had really no idea what to wear the following day. What a mistake. It wasn't long before everything became smelly, wrinkled, and disorganized. Ever the inventor, I thought to myself, there has to be the better way. There's many other inventors before me. I quickly sketched out a concept of a hanging, collapsible shelving system integrated into a duffel bag that kept me organized on the go. Since school at Humber is no walk in the park, I put the sketch aside to focus on my studies, but it never left my mind. Upon graduating, I pulled out that sketch and began my roller coaster of a journey. My first hurdle was to find someone that could sew a bag together for my concept so that I could see if it would work or not. Simple, right? Well, with very little cut and sew manufacturing in Canada left these days, I turned to Kijiji to find a sewer. I was in for a shock. You see, most of these people advertising their sewing services were limited in skill to sewing curtains and pillowcases, not a complicated bag like mine that the world had never seen before. After waiting months to receive a prototype from various sewers and receiving nothing, I realized that proving my concept was going to be solely up to me. I bought a cheap sewing machine, I learned the basics, and I eventually was able to sew my shelves and staple them into the bottom of a duffel bag. To my amazement, everything worked. I started a company and called the brand Rise, and I developed a logo. I sent the sample to a manufacturer in China to get a real prototype made. Most people think I sent the prototype there and magically I had a finished product in my hands, ready to sell. What they don't realize is that I spent countless nights awake until 3 in the morning, working with my manufacturer in China just to get it all right. I would then get 3 hours of sleep and head to my full-time job and repeat that for about a year. Basically, I had no time for anything, and my girlfriend wanted to kill me, but I persevered. Eventually, I had everything figured out, and I took the plunge and ordered 2,000 bags. I couldn't wait to start counting all the money I was going to make. Around the same time, my girlfriend and I had just purchased a house, and eventually we got the 2,000 bags into my basement when they arrived. Anxious to see them, I ripped open the box, and to my horror, they were all wrinkled. Actually, they couldn't be more wrinkled if I tried. This wouldn't have been the end of the world, except that we were selling an organizational product that was supposed to keep your clothes wrinkle-free. Well, that summer was a write-off for both of us, as my brother, who now joined the company, while our friends were out and enjoying themselves over the weekend, we would be stuck in my basement ironing out bags for 8 hours a day. When we were lucky, some of our family and friends would actually be there to help. Our basement was literally a forest of hanging rise bags all in the rafters everywhere. You couldn't see anything. Again, my girlfriend wanted to kill me, and again, we persevered. At this point in time, we had a lot going on. New bills, new mortgage, new business. My world had changed drastically since my graduation, and I was doing the best I could to keep my head above the water. To make matters worse, we were getting very little traction and hardly any sales. I started to think I might be one of those crazy inventors with a basement full of inventions collecting dust forever. We had a great product that solved a real problem, but we really didn't have a way to tell the world about it. Eventually, my brother suggested that we audition for Dragon's Den. We grabbed a couple bags and made it to the last edition of their tour for the season. To our amazement, we earned a spot to pitch to the Dragons. The only catch was that only a select few pitches were actually going to air on TV, and that's if they were actually good for TV. We decided that we had to get out of our comfort zone and do something that would ensure our spot. So we put together a pitch involving going on in bright, tight underwear and pretend that we were getting dressed on air. Our strategy was to compare a regular disorganized duffel bag to our new Rise duffel bag with shelves. My brother would look like a mess with wrinkled clothing once he found the stuff that he was supposed to wear from his regular duffel. And I would look like a star, using the Rise bag, finding my clean, wrinkle-free clothing with ease and putting it on. Waiting for our turn to go on stage in my underwear, with the anticipation rising, was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life. And then the moment came. We were on. As we stepped onto the sets, the Dragons were shocked. But because I was so passionate about the product and what I was doing, all my nervousness disappeared. As we negotiated with 4 of the 5 Dragons for a deal, and eventually settling on working with Arlene Dickinson and David Chilton for their marketing and financial expertise that we lacked. A couple months later, CBC notified us that in a week we would be airing on the premiere episode of season 7. It was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life, seeing everyone's reaction to all of our hard work to date. This was followed with a ton of media exposure, including an appearance on the Shopping Channel, Today's Show, and a ton of other high-caliber blogs and newspapers around the world. At the start of my journey, I really had no idea how naive I was, and this was a good thing, because it ended up being one of my greatest strengths and the reason that I followed through with this project in the first place. I essentially followed my dreams. If I didn't know at the beginning how difficult it would be and the challenges that I would face, I would have likely passed on the whole thing and I would never be here in front of you today. I would have realized that the pressures involving testing my mental will and that my friends and my family in the process. So, the million-dollar question, was it all worth it? Well, I don't know 100% yet. It's still to be determined in the story of my life. But I married that girlfriend. The bags in my basement are now sold. And I'm working on Rise full-time and having the time of my life doing it. My hope for you is that you are naive enough to start your journey, persevere through your challenges, and never stop dreaming. Thank you and congratulations.